What's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode number 6 of the Infinite Reps podcast. You already know what it is. My name is Trevor Stone. If this is your first time tuning in, go ahead and follow us at Trev12. Let's get right into it. So today we're discussing a chapter from The Way of the Wolf, okay, by Jordan Belfort. So if you guys have seen the movie Wolf of Wall Street, this is the real Wolf of Wall Street, okay? This book is heavy in the sales department, of course. If you've seen the movie, you know what the movie's about. My man Jordan Belfort is a straight savage, right? He did do some time in jail, but he basically breaks down his system. He calls it the straight line system. He breaks down his system and how he not only built himself up into a multimillionaire, right? But how he also built others. He taught people this same system, okay? I want to jump into, again, if you want to know like why his story is so cool, check out the movie. But again, this is the real Jordan Belfort. This is the real Wolf of Wall Street. So one of the chapters I want to jump into is chapter 5, which is on state management. Now, the rest of the book is really heavy in sales. It's all about like your pitch and all this stuff, right? But again, we want to deal with the infinite expansion of the mind. I want to focus on material that's going to kind of apply to any field, right? That you can apply, right? Because at the end of the day, when I present an idea to you, right, if it does resonate with you in any way, right, don't give me credit, go to the source, right? I'm gonna give you the source, go to the source, and then you can hear it from the horse's mouth. And he's giving up game in here, right? It's $1 billion game basically. So state management, that's chapter number 5, right? Jordan Belfort, he introduces this idea called future pacing, okay, in the book. And this is a technique that he taught his trainees when he was teaching them how to put up big numbers, right, and become millionaires themselves. So future pacing is basically running a movie in your mind, an imaginal scene in your mind of your goal already fulfilled in the moment, okay? You can be, he taught this technique to, broke college student, they were down and out, right? And it's basically imagining all your wishes fulfilled, all your goals fulfilled in the moment. And what that does, again, it's an imaginary movie that you run through your mind, right? You imagine all those feelings that you're going to have when the goal is fulfilled so that you can experience those feelings in the moment. You can have the benefits of experiencing those feelings in the moment, okay? And what that does is he basically explains how state management is so important, okay, because it determines your emotional state, right, which gives you access to the internal resources that you need to be successful, okay? So in the sales world, right, you're basically dealing with the transfer of energy when you sell a customer, okay? And he's basically breaking down how if you're in a disempowered state, okay, you're not going to be able to hit your goals, okay? We'll just keep it in a general sense here, right, with any field that you want to get into. If you're in a disempowered state, you're blocked from your internal resources, which is your intuition, right? All your training, right? You can do all the training in the world, but if in the moment when you need to execute, if you're in a disempowered state, you're actually blocked from these internal resources, which will push you to success, okay? When you're in an empowered state, you actually have access to these resources, okay? And he says, fear basically stifles you, and empowerment, certainty, clarity, these things lead to results. Confidence leads to results, okay? He basically breaks it down like this. When you're in an empowered state, you have access to the internal resources that are going to allow you to be successful, which leads to massive success. When you're in a disempowered state of uncertainty, fear, doubt, worry, right? You're blocked from your internal resources, right? Your intuition, your gut instinct, and that leads to massive failure, okay? So just keeping it really quick here, that's how he breaks it down. But what I really want to focus on, because again, infinite reps is about the infinite expansion of the mind through, namely, repetition, okay? This is how we program the subconscious mind, is through repetition. So we deal with algorithms, we deal with solutions. So again, recognizing that there is such a importance between a disempowered state and an empowered state that it can literally make or break you, right? we have to understand not only just by future pacing, right? Not just imagining, right? Because what future pacing does, it just allows you to understand what feelings you need to bring about in the moment to be successful, right? So when you imagine all your goals being accomplished, right, you feel really good. Now, how do you trigger those feelings when you need them most? How do you trigger an empowered state when you need them most? Well, one thing that Jordan Belfort breaks down is that, again, learning how to trigger these states is essential, for a success-oriented person. But you don't have to be in that state all the time, okay? It doesn't help to be, and it's really impossible to be jacked up all the time, like ready to go all the time, okay? The key is to be able to be in the empowered state, whatever that empowered state is in your field. The key is to be able to be in that empowered state in the moment when it matters most, in the moment when you need to get those results. It's okay to fluctuate between, disempowered, because we can't all be empowered all the time. It's just not natural. So it's okay to fluctuate, but in the moments that matter most, you got to have systems in place in order to trigger these empowered states. Okay, that's what he says success-oriented people do. They have triggers to tap in. Okay, so what he deals with is called neuro-linguistic programming. Okay, he deals with neuro-linguistic programming. Okay, I'm gonna just read it off to you real quick. So neuro-linguistic programming, right? The basic premise is that the human brain functions similarly to a computer, okay? And hence can be programmed as such to make nearly instant changes to key behavioral patterns, okay? So what did he just say? He says the human brain, okay, it functions as similarly to a computer, all right? The brain is a computer, right? He's really talking about the subconscious mind, right? But let's just say brain to keep it simple. The human brain functions similarly to a computer, and it can be programmed, okay, to make near instant changes to key behavioral patterns, right? So he says there are two important things to know about this, right? Number one, you have to know how to write code for the human brain. You got to know how to write the code, okay? And you need to know what type of software to put in the code, all right? So the type of software that you need to put in there, right? Go to successful people to figure out what things you need to program into your brain, right? Figure out what things they program into their brains to make them successful, okay? But basically he breaks down how software, okay? The software of the human brain is language. And you write code for the human brain through language patterns, okay? Let me write that down, because the software is the language, right? The software is the language. The software equals the language, okay? The language that you speak. And the way that you write the code, right? So you speak the human brain, the software of the human brain is the words, right? The vocals, right? And you write the code for the brain, right? What does he say? Through your language patterns. You write the code, he says, through the language patterns, okay? This is your boy saying this, okay? So you write the code through language patterns. Now, that may seem pretty straightforward, it's pretty intuitive, but it's critical, because what is a pattern? A pattern is something we do over and over again, okay? Repetitiously, repeatedly, okay? Like I said, we are about infinite repetitions with the infinite expansion of the mind, okay? Through repetition, because that is how you write the code for your human brain, for your subconscious, okay? So a language pattern is something that you repeat to yourself over and over again. Now, if you always have disempowered language patterns, okay, versus empowered language patterns, then you know what kind of code you're writing for your brain, okay? You follow me? And again, what this comes down to when he's dealing with these concepts is how we feel. Okay, we're talking about state management. Okay, what it comes down to is two things, he says. Okay, focus and physiology. Okay, he says that the way that we feel, okay, our state, our emotional state, okay, our emotional state, which is how we feel, okay, our emotional state, which is how we feel, come down to two things, okay, which interestingly enough are both under our conscious control. What does conscious control means? It means that you can literally control these things with your mind, okay? He says it comes down to, number one, what we focus on and our physiology, right? So our emotional state is how we feel. Our emotional state is what makes or breaks us in those critical moments of success, okay? When it's crunch time. Our emotional state is how we feel. Are we feeling empowered or are we feeling disempowered? Are we in a state of abundance? Or are we in a state of scarcity, okay? Are we in a state of success or failure? Okay, that's what it comes down to. And what our emotional state, it comes down to two things. Number one, what we focus on, okay? So where your focus goes, your energy flows, all right? If you're constantly focused on negativity, right? If you're focused on gossip, if you're focused on the trolls, your haters, I don't know. If you're focused on anything other than things that, again, going back to future pacing, if you're focused on the things that are in conflict with your imaginary scene, where you're imagining all your goals fulfilled, then your focus will be in a disempowered state, right? And then he says, and these are conscious. You can consciously, right, decide, I'm not going to focus on what's going on my timeline. You can say, I'm not going to focus on what's going on in the group chat or whatever the case may be. I'm going to focus on my goals, achievement, right? Things that make me feel empowered, right? Maybe you can have entertainment is great, right? Entertainment is great. Focus on something that's going to empower you, though. Focus on something that's going to leave you in an abundance mindset, okay? And then he says number two is the physiology. So these two things determine our emotional state, right? So our physiology. Take note of your physiology as you watch this video. Are you slouched down? Are you laying all the way down? Are you barely paying attention, right? Or are you straight up, right? Physiology has to do with everything. It's how you breathe, how you sit. Okay? Are you having shallow breaths? Are you breathing deeply? Did you breathe deeply this morning? And getting into a powered state. Okay? This is all important. Okay? And there's so many different techniques that you can look into. Okay? You can take cold showers. That changes your physiology. When that cold water hits you, if breath is part of your physiology, it'll make you take a deep breath. Now your physiology has changed, okay? Cold showers. Look into Tony Robbins. He deals with priming, okay? Breathing over and over again. Wim Hof, okay? He's another excellent state management coach, okay? There's tons and tons of examples of techniques, meditation, all right? The way that I future pace is I do it through meditation every morning, okay? I future pace my goals. I live in the goal fulfilled, okay? So I can know what those feelings are like so that when I bring about those feelings and I have success, I can recognize that and I can duplicate it over and over again until it actually happens in reality. Okay, that's what future pacing is about. But you gotta get into something. You gotta get into some type of technique. Okay, you gotta get into some type of technique. And again, just to reiterate, it is natural to fluctuate. Okay, it is natural to fluctuate from a disempowered state into an empowered state. You're not always going to be jacked up all the time. It's natural to fluctuate from scarcity to abundance. Okay, but we want to definitely be able to recognize where we are. Okay, We want to, just like we want to be able to recognize some of our limiting beliefs, okay, so we can drown them out. We also want to be able to recognize how we feel when we are feeling abundant or when we're feeling scarce. Because when it matters most, you want to make sure that you are feeling abundant and empowered. Okay. So another cool example that that Jordan Belfort breaks down is how again, through neuro linguistic programming, right? Again, the premise, right? Let me go back and read the premise of neuro linguistic programming. Okay, it is that you can basically program your feeling. Okay, the premise is that the human brain functions similar to a computer and hence can be programmed as to make such near changes to certain key behavioral patterns. Okay, so what it comes down to, right? It's good. What it comes down to is that you can change your emotional state at any given time, right? You don't need to do it all the time, right? But in those key moments, if you want to execute, be able to change your state, okay? And neurolinguistic programming, it can be done through the 5 senses, okay? Right? So there's the visual, right? What you see. There's auditory, what you hear. Kinesthetic, what you feel, right? With the touch of your skin, right? Gustatory, which is your taste, and olfactory, which is your smell. So in this book, chapter 5 or chapter 6, the next chapter, he actually breaks down his specific strategy. He uses the sense of smell. Okay, whenever he would get on his calls before he would make a sales call, he would make sure that he was in a state of certainty. He already future paced. He knew he could recognize what that state of certainty is, and then he anchored it. Right, he used anchoring to connect the smell of, for example, let's say he used a market, right? He would make the smell of this expo marker. He would make it so that every time he smelled the expo marker, he turned into the Wolf of Wall Street. Every time he smelled the expo marker, he turned into the Wolf of Wall Street. Every time he smells the expo marker, he turns into the Wolf of Wall Street. Okay, but he will only do it when he needs to close, right? When he needs to close some sales, right? You can do it through any 5 of the senses. You can trigger, right? And this is why you can actually be triggered in the negative too, right? You can be triggered to have negative feelings by what you watch, right? Because you eat with your eyes, you eat with your ears, you eat with your mouth, you eat by the way you feel, apparently, okay? So all your senses, you're taking in information. And you can, if you're listening to garbage music, right? That can trigger a negative state of mind. If you listen to empowering music, it can trigger a state of mind, right? And there's a famous example of anchoring, which is called Pavlov's dog. So anybody that paid attention in school, in high school, they remember the experience of Pavlov's dog. When my man rang the bell and he gave the dogs the steak, okay? Every time he gave him the steak, he would ring the bell. Every time he gave him the steak, he would ring the bell. Every time he gave him the steak, he would ring the bell. Now the dogs, they seeing the steak, their mouth start watering like a motherfucker. And that bell's just going off in the background for some reason. But their mouth is watering, their mouth is watering every time they see steak. Of course, right? It's a dog. They want to eat the steak. And then what happened was every time they would ring the bell, the dog's mouth would start watering, just anticipating the steak. They just knew the steak was coming. Now let's say Pavlov didn't even bring the steak. It didn't even matter. Automatically, he already anchored the sound of the bell to the activity of them bringing them steak. So he could trigger an emotional state in the dogs. It's the same thing. You can trigger emotional states through what you see, through what you hear, through what you feel, through what you taste, and through what you smell. Okay? But the key here is to be aware of these concepts and get into these things, right? Study, right? If there's something that I said on here or that I reviewed that resonated with you, go to the source, right? This is an online forum. Again, this is a discussion. Go to the source and see if these principles work for you, all right? Again, follow the Instagram at KillerTrev12. Email book recommendations to infiniterepsinfo@gmail.com. Leave a comment like the video, share the video, right? Again, get into these concepts because it's all about infinite reps. It's all about the infinite expansion of the mind. The mind is all, right? Get your mind right and your ass will follow, right? Everything that's going on in your life right now is a reflection of what's going on in your mind. Okay, so if we can control this, if we can become aware of these concepts, if you have the courage to become aware of these concepts, right, to know yourself, you can go ahead and achieve what you want to achieve. If you have some goals, I would recommend that you get some goals first. But that's all I got for today. Y'all be easy. It is Killer Trev, aka